Very nice, very nice. Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello. Oh my goodness, the cameras are closer.
Yeah, and standing on carbon fibre alien legs, just like War of the Worlds, and I feel intimidated.
Simon's got a new tripod.
He does.
It looks like a science fiction movie.
It does.
How much did it cost, Simon?
Too much.
It was over 2,000 quid for a
Ah,
tripod.
stop it.
Imagine the pedals you could buy with that.
Boy, oh boy. But because of the tripod, the show's got to look so much better. And, you know...
Well, I think all other Simon's other work is going to look better because he actually uses it for that
There's not
stuff.
much he can do with
Yeah,
this.
it's just stood there. Well, this is interesting, Daniel.
This is interesting. We have been doing, looking at a couple of compressors lately. And one of the things that was very interesting is running them with different voltages. And we thought, aha, let's have a look at a range of pedals, running them with different voltages. The very common thing to do is to double the voltage from 9 to 18. But what about all the voltages in between? And what happens when you actually starve it of voltage?
Yeah, we get asked this a lot, don't we? So when we include a pedal such as the OCD, the Fulltone OCD, one of the best-selling overdrive pedals of all time.
Can I do your voice?
Most loved.
You guys, why did you run it at 18 volts?
Yeah, and somebody helpfully usually throws in that comment, why didn't you run it at 18 volts? Because it's not every pedal can run at varying voltages, but some can, and we have examples here, as Dan said.
Yes.
So that's it, really. What difference does voltage make to some pedals? So we're going to have a look at that.
First of all, a disclaimer.
Yes.
If you're wondering if your pedal can run at 18 volts, don't email us. You need to email the manufacturer or check out in the manual if it doesn't state specifically that you can run at 18 volts.
Or any other voltage.
You need to check with the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So now,
To be fair, most modern pedals have a good manual that it says explicitly what the correct voltage to run it at should
yes,
be.
that's right. Everyone looking at the Jam Fuzz face saying, oh my God, don't run that at 18 volts. We're not going to do that. We're going to look at a battery option versus power supply option for that, and then starve that a little bit of voltage. However, when we're talking about different voltages, you know, we can't generalize because the design of every pedal is different, and when you change the voltage on the pedal, it does different things. In some pedals, it'll change the bias of the transistors. In some pedals, it'll give you more headroom. In some pedals, if the capacitors aren't rating for 18 volts, you'll blow the thing up. Yeah. So, running it at different voltages, you'll get a different character depending on how the pedal is designed. It's not a blanket thing that 18 volts will just give you more headroom, because it's all about the design of the pedal.
It is. That, however, is going to be the bulk of our discussion today because in pedals such as the OCD, definitely the Full-Drive, definitely the Origin compressor here, and definitely the Analogman Bi-Chorus there, that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Could you explain briefly how that works? Because you often put your hands up like this and you talk about rails. What does that mean?
So, talking about rails is the maximum headroom that the power supply will give us. So normally we're talking about 0 volts, which is also ground, and then we'll have a plus or a plus 5 volt supply. Sometimes in the pedal, if there's a regulator, there's another thing. Some pedals will take 18 volts, but it won't change the sound at all, because if the pedal is regulated internally, then the regulator can take a range of voltage, but it'll deliver a constant voltage inside.
So it won't matter what you stuff in there as long as it can take it.
Exactly. And
so we really are talking about pedals that say in the manual, hey, try this at different voltages.
Yep. So if we start at 0 volts and then we have let's say 9 volts, it doesn't just because you put 9 volts in, it doesn't necessarily translate that we've got 9 volts of headroom in the pedal. As a matter of fact, it very rarely works like that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, we've got 9 volts, and that is the range of headroom that we have for when the pedal is at its most open, that we have this range of headroom before it clips. Now, what happens is when the signal is more than the headroom, we get the and you imagine the you see the sine wave like a fuzz sine wave. Well, if you think about it, that fuzz sine wave is basically your AC signal, but it's clipping, and those edges on that clipping is what gives us the distortion. And whether it's softer edges or really hard edges, that's what translates into the sound of our overdrive and distortion. So when we're talking about increasing the headroom, if we have a pedal that's designed to take more voltage, we can actually increase that range. And what happens is sometimes with that small increase in range, it's a different characteristic.
Yeah. So one thing that is immediately springing to mind for me now is that you've got the shape of the distortion, which is one sound,
yes,
and then you've got how loud it can go out of the pedal.
Yep.
And really, that's kind of what we're talking about. For sure, these voltages will affect the character of the overdrive.
Yes.
But the biggest thing or one of the things you notice is basically how loud the pedal will go before it starts crapping in and dying on itself.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you think about what we're doing, imagine you've got two gain stages, and what we're doing is we're taking our guitar signal and we're cranking it up so that when it hits the second gain stage, it's sort of smashing into that gain stage and clipping. Or by creating more headroom, we are increasing the amount of the output stage. So the amount that we have to crank into it before that will clip.
All right, then. Why don't we explore that basic theory?
Cool.
Using the Massive Secret pedal. Now, the Massive Secret pedal is a pedal that may or may not come to market in due course. And what's interesting about the Massive Secret pedal, as you can see on the top panel there, it has options for 9, 18 and 24 volts.
Yes.
So let's hear it, shall we?
Yeah.
And see what we can hear. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 9 volts. Daniel, if you wouldn't mind playing these. So all the other controls are straight up. So let's see. This is going to sound fairly clean, I would imagine.
Okay.
Give us an E chord or something.
Amps today, Vox AC30 and the Victory V40. So straight away, you hear that different character.
I can't see the dB meter, so I've got to move this.
Straight away you hear that different character, but we are essentially, we're not tripling the voltage, but we're 2.5 times in the voltage. We're not getting 2.5 times the output, but we are changing the ratio, the headroom ratio.
So just do that again for me, can you? This time we'll start at 24. I hope it's as clear in the audio as it is in the room. The dB meter was showing higher peaks, obviously, at the 24 volt setting than the 9 volt setting, or at least the higher average. Maybe the peak was somewhat similar. How did it feel under the fingers?
The tricky thing is, because the more voltage is more louder, you automatically think it's more better.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is if we can go between 9 and 24, then if you can knock the level down so it's at the same level.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Because it does, it feels different. The 9 volt, there's almost this underlying blanket of distortion.
Well, let's increase that blanket of distortion just for a second and see what you think of this.
Man, that sounds so good.
So now I'll just do the thing that you said.
Yep.
Play it at 9 again, and I will reduce the level when we go to 24.
Yep. Can we go now to 9, back where we were, and then just bring the gain down a little bit? So there's definitely a difference in feel.
And a big difference in sound.
Yeah. And it's not the same as just reducing the gain on the front end.
No, it's completely different.
Yeah, it's...
Let's go silly then. We're going to max the gain out here at 24 volts.
Okay.
Tell me what you think of this. That is such an awesome sounding thing. So,
wow, I that having those options there where you get to almost this gated fuzz, because that's what's happening.
That's why I did it. Yeah,
slamming, and then what we're doing is we're giving it more headroom, and that's incredible.
It's killer, isn't it?
Just amazing.
We could probably stop the video there because that is the basic concept that explains what happens when the pedal is designed to take different voltages, isn't it?
We should do a quick sign off now, and so that everyone that wants to keep watching can just watch after this, because that's all in there.
That tells the story.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that tells the story. So, what do you get in a pedal that is designed to do it? Mm-hmm. And it's important to keep saying that if your overdrive pedal is not designed to take different voltages, please don't do it.
Yeah.
If it is designed to take different voltages, and it says so explicitly in the manual or on the manufacturer's website, as these do, apart from the fuzz phrase, what you can expect is more clean headroom.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say more note fundamental, cleaner notes, and then as you start starving the voltage, what you then get is more overtones, more compression, more overdrive, squishy, more...
Yeah, and that because we're bringing that headroom down, and then the energy has less place to move, and it's very squashed, very compressed, and gated. Actually, you know what we can do? Can we starve the voltage to that? You play that for a bit, and then I'll start turning down from 9 volts and see how far we can go.
Can you do that?
Well, I can do it from here.
Hope we don't blow it up.
So do I. No, it'll be fine.
So Daniel has here a
Bench supply.
A bench supply, which has nothing to do with exercise.
So we're on 9 volts here.
Yep.
Okay. So if you play.
Cool.
So it takes a little,
I'm not sure if it can take much more than 9, just so...
yeah, so it takes a little while for the capacitors to discharge and that, but that's the effect of like a dying battery.
Yeah.
That's that sound that we all sort of recognise.
We'll get onto that when we talk about fuzz.
Very cool.
How cool is that? Kind of explains it, doesn't it? So why don't we then... actually, just before we move on, one thing... No, we'll do it when we get to the full drive.
Okay.
So let's move on then. So this among the most popular overdrive pedals of all time ever.
Yes.
And most bestest loved.
Yes.
And this, an update of one of the best loved overdrive pedals of all time ever. Both full tone and both very much designed to operate at 9 or 18 volts.
Yes, or anywhere in betwixt.
Yes. So how are we going to do that? Are we going to use the bench supply again, or can we have an option?
What we'll do is we'll use the bench supply to start at 9.
Yep.
Then I'll bring it back a little bit. It takes a little bit of time for those capacitors to discharge, so we'll just bring it back slowly. Then I'll bring it back up to 9. Then we'll get it up to 14, and then I'll swap it out for 18 volts.
Yeah, because our bench supply for some reason is only doing 14.8 volts.
Yeah, which is
it's not very well.
Alrighty.
Can we start with the full drive?
Yep.
This is the Full-Drive1. It's relatively new. Not very new. I'm going to put it in one of the slightly more... It has 3 modes. The one at the top is the comp cut mode, which is the least compressed, and we'll get onto that in a sec. The other 2 modes have slightly more compression and different clipping type, and therefore a little bit more overdrive. So... Okay, so we're going to start, what did you say, at 9 volts?
Start at 9.
And then you're going to come down and then go back up again, yeah?
Yep.
Doesn't seem to be doing anything.
No, see the LED? Yeah. So that's really interesting. So it's
pumping up internally, is it?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if that's what it's doing, because that would mean it wouldn't change at all, because as we go into 18 volts, it also wouldn't change. So I just think it's got quite a large range for that voltage.
Let me just try some power chords on the bridge pickup, see if that makes any difference.
Okay. So it turns on at about 5 volts, get underneath 5 volts and it starts going. So I get back up to 9, and then I'm going to start increasing that up to 15 or 14.8. very little.
Not noticing a huge difference.
No.
Let's go into the comp cut mode. It will get very loud.
Okay. I love this mode. Much more sensitive. But did you hear how creamy it got when I started to start the voltage? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. So let's try it at the full.
At 18?
Can we just swap between 9 and 18 volts?
Yep.
So I think, to be fair, I think we fairly demonstrated the effect of voltage on higher gain sounds. Chewier, more overdrive, and we'll come to that in the OCD in a sec. But let's focus on what I would regard as cleaner headroom from a pedal.
Sure.
So we'll stick on the comp cut mode and see. Let's just see. Can I have a bit of reverb, please?
So it's subtle, but there's definitely... Does it feel less subtle under the fingers?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
It does. So let's just go back. Let's do this comparison again. Again, I know we're going to do this on the OCD, but... in that mode, it's slightly sweeter in the 9 volt.
Yeah, so this is I think this is a really important point to make. The guys that are designing these on 9 volts to sound a certain way, and to have sort of maximum, when you get the gain sounds like that, they're designed to have all those harmonics and that, even though the 18 volts is a really good option, you should never think it's going to necessarily sound better. The more headroom doesn't necessarily make it sound better. No,
and it's going to vary depending on what amp you're using as
Absolutely.
well. So if your amp, the increased headroom out of the pedal might make your amp compress more.
Mm-hmm.
So you're actually just hitting the front end of your amp harder.
Yep.
Whereas into a higher headroom amp, you might find that it gives you even more dynamic range, or it might be too clacky at that point. It might be too much. The thing to know really is that with that increased headroom comes increased dynamic range,
increased responsibility,
pick attack, less compression, right? Increased responsibility, nice. All right, do you want to play for the OCD and I'll swap the power?
Okay.
Let's I suppose we should introduce some humbuckers at some point as well.
I'm just doing that right now.
Because for you, Slash, what was your name? Slash? Dave Slash, John Slash. I apologise, I can't remember your name. You asked for Dan to play the Les Paul more. Here it is.
Dave Slash?
No, somebody Slash his name was.
Okay.
Never knew he was called Dave.
No, it's not that Slash. Oh, Dan, you've given me a problem here.
I'll move it over, sorry dude.
Simon will be pleased because this will mean that his masking only has to happen once. So what's this is me... Where's me 18 volt? That's me 18 volt tap,
That's
yeah?
the one, yeah. Groovy.
So that guitar is already pushing the AC30 a bit, isn't it?
Yes. That is not a great sound.
That wasn't such a great sound, but there we are.
So ran at 18 volts, it doesn't squash, it's a lot more direct. It doesn't have the same harmonics in there, but boy, it's lovely.
Let's do the other thing then.
Starve it.
No. Let's go for a cleaner sound.
Oh yes, okay.
Go for it. See if you can play something approaching the same thing. Hear the AC30 transformer. Can you do me one final thing?
Yep.
Bridge pickup. Just hit me some open like power chord type things, and
Yep.
I'll go from 18 to 9.
Boy, that's fascinating.
So I don't know about you. I had the glory of being right in front of the speakers. It was actually really nice. It was really, really nice. Great sound. What was your impression?
The single line stuff there's a much bigger difference, on the 18 volts, it wasn't compressing as much, and those initial the transits that was just a little bit more on it.
In a way that you liked, or
in a way that I
liked?
really
Okay.
liked. It just now it's a slight increase of volume, and that would have changed the interaction between what's going on here and going on there. But at 18, I think 9 volts and 18 volts with the power chords, it was a little bit louder, a little bit more defined, but not. I didn't have the same amount of difference as I felt with the single line stuff. But at 18 volts, I thought that sounded spectacular.
Tell you what I was hearing with my ear in speaker line. Yes, with the single note stuff, definitely more edge on the front of the note.
Yep.
I was getting a few more slightly unpleasant harmonics.
Oh wow!
It was less chewy.
Yeah, sure.
And there was more. You know what we always say about if you play a very revealing amp
Yes.
or a very high headroom something, you've got to be super careful about what you play, because everything. In fact, Dan has addressed this in his first practice vlog that will be out, or that is already out actually by the time this goes out.
Was it already up?
It'll be out today at midday.
Oh, awesome.
And I was hearing that. I was hearing every single nuance of the note. Bear in mind that my ear was in line with the cone of the speaker.
Yeah,
so,
and that's the Celestian blue.
Yeah, and it was pretty loud.
Beaming
so,
right in your head.
I wouldn't want to be down there for too long, missus. And when we moved to the power chords, that's for you, Pete. When we moved to the power chords,
Yep.
Danish Pete, the king of innuendo. When we moved to the power chords, again, it was chewier, slightly more pleasant harmonics, overtones, all those things that
At 9.
Yeah, at 9, yeah. And then at 18, sounded great, sounded really forthright, and a bit of that.
The more direct.
Yeah, it's killer, absolutely killer. I couldn't say, because the OCD is such a cracking sounding pedal anyway.
Yeah.
I could see why people who maybe have slightly crunchier amps, or I don't know, a certain style of music might prefer the 18 volt mode.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I wouldn't say that. In most things, I would always prefer the high headroom option. Always. But in that,
Not necessarily.
they've both got their. There's a lot to love in both modes.
Yeah. Very cool.
A bit like when
My
you
goodness.
have a guitar amp and it's got a half power mode, and it's like, nah. It never sounds good in the half power mode, does it?
No.
Rarely. The Hampstead does, actually.
The Hampstead does.
Your Hampsteads do.
Yes.
That's one of the few amps that I've heard that do sound good in the low power mode. But generally, more is better, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, killer.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I think we've pretty much covered the overdrive
yes.
thing.
Yep. Definitely. I want to really have a look at the compressor, because I have one of these, and lots of people I build boards for have these on as well.
Yeah.
And the consensus is they love them at 18 volts.
These being the Origin Effects Cali 76 Compact Deluxe for all our podcast listeners.
Nice, nice.
I remembered you finally.
Cool, okay. Right, so if you want to have some strat swaying.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hear it at 9 and 18, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dan and I are going to make a Compressors video this afternoon that may go out before or after this, depending on the chronology of it. But if you want to know more about Compressors, please watch that.
Cool. All right. Okay, so just a bit of a reference.
However that goes.
All right, so
It
that
just
was 9.
always reminds me of a bit of Knopfler, that.
All right, so this is 9 volts. 18.
Just use that as an AB a minute, Dan. It's much more subtle. I'm just hearing more attack in the 18.
Yeah, and I think that's just the preamp side. So if you think in a compressor that it's meant to compress, it's meant to limit the dynamics.
Yes, so
right?
you're already dealing with that, which
Exactly.
is why I'm finding it a bit confusing.
So it's the extra headroom in the dry preamp side that you're hearing.
I wonder if it makes it, because this particular compressor is sort of born of the Universal Audio 1176, very famous studio compressor, which is noted as being a very fast FET compressor anyway. But I wonder if the increased voltage would make it react quicker or something like that, less saggy. I don't know, probably not.
I don't think so.
Not that one, but in other compressors.
Maybe, but yeah, I think that increase in directness is a direct result on the extra headroom in the dry signal path, as opposed to the compressing one.
If you went for a very compressed sound,
yes,
and loads of
all right, let's
level,
do that.
I wonder if that would make a
All
difference.
right, let's do that. So, get rid of the dry completely.
Yeah, let's go super compressed.
Okay, so if you want to play for us a sec. So there's almost no note left.
Squashy.
Squashy.
So, predictably, more front of the note, a bit more headroom. Could you now mix a decent amount of dry signal back in and do the same thing? I tell you what I think I'm hearing in addition is an EQ change.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about headroom, clearly headroom has a lot to do with what frequencies are passing. And I wonder if, because there's more of everything, I'm perceiving the bass more.
Interesting.
And because that's what volume is, right? Volume is more of
everything. Yes.
But it might be, and this is a speculation, it might be that voltage change doesn't affect frequency uniformly.
Okay.
i.e. it might affect some frequencies more than others.
Let's start at 15 volts, and we'll bring it down and see what we can hear.
Okay. I'm trying to think of something to play that sort of makes sense. Play some sustaining chords just to see if that works. Is it affecting the threshold? Is it affecting the onset?
Yeah,
of
well,
the
it'll affect
compressor?
where the compression comes in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a massive deal with the compressor.
Yeah. So
The compression is smoother on the higher voltages.
right.
Does it feel like that to you?
Well, so that increased headroom means that the threshold will be higher. So essentially, less is being compressed.
But it feels like the onset of compression is smoother.
Okay. So
Just try that again. Go from the low voltage
Okay,
and
so
just listen to where the compression comes in.
under like it really doesn't like being under 9.
Okay.
Let me just, because it's pumping at the moment. Just play for us. Cool.
And listen to that. How it comes in. Now give me as much voltage as you've got. It's changing the knee of the compression, isn't it?
Yeah.
Feels like what it's doing.
Uh-huh.
Feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's affecting the characteristic of how the compressor works, which may work depending on the type of instrument you're using.
The knee, just for anyone that's not aware, so if you think that the signal's coming in, and then where the compression starts, the signal will then be compressed, and depending on the ratio and the threshold is where it starts to be compressed. The knee is that where the threshold hits, and then if you imagine it looks like a knee and how sharp that point is. You can have a soft knee or a hard knee. That's how it goes. So
yeah, so if you're using a compression threshold of, let's say, 5:1, before the compression onsets, it's 1:1.
Yep.
And then when compression onsets, it's 5:1. So the knee, the attack is how quickly it goes from 1:1 to 5:1. The knee is how quickly it goes 1:1, 2:1, 3:1, 4:1, 5:1.
There you go.
I think. Is that right, Simon? Good.
Cool. Interesting. It was yeah, I thought that the difference would be much more marked.
Maybe it would be with
that.
overdrive or something, or
Have a listen.
yeah.
Here we go. So back to 9. Let's throw in some full drive in the front of that.
Were you changing it?
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Fine.
Fine.
I think I preferred it at the higher voltage because it just seems smoother and more even and more headroom, and that's what I want.
Right.
I want more of all of that. I want my overdrives to be chewy and kind of, and I want my compressor to be.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Very good. Okay. The Analogman Bi-Chorus. Now, I've had this pedal for far out 10 years, and I've run it at all different sorts of voltages. It's a very cool sounding thing.
Can it do 9 or 18?
They can do 9 or 18 or anywhere in between.
You like 12.6, don't you?
I like 15.
15.
15. Okay, so I've got a bit of reverb and delay on there from the ethereal. So this is 9 volts, yeah. Okay, that'd be 9. So 18 volts sort of gets rid of all the... So I think what's happening there is it's rebiasing. And we're not hearing the modulation at 18 volts.
I seem to remember the biggest change when we did this before. I think we did this once before, many moons ago. The big difference was in the not in necessarily the kind of loudness or the headroom of the pedal. It was in the type of modulation.
Right.
Wasn't it? What I think it's doing, because you've got your direct sound and your modulated sound, I think it's giving the direct sound more headroom, more amplitude, and so it's bringing down. So basically the effect level seems less. I'm hearing the opposite. I'm hearing more depth. I'm hearing more depth of effect at higher voltage. You not hearing that?
No. Do it again.
Do you have to give it time to react to the voltage?
You do, because the capacitors have to discharge. But that's at 15 volts, which is my favourite way to run it. But now if I change that from 15 to 18... It's got rid of almost all the modulation.
Is that the same setting?
It's the same setting. So it's that window you've got between 15 and 18. It's either rebiasing something.
What if you give it more depth at this point? Does that make any difference?
Have a listen. That was 18. This is 9.
Almost sounds like it's not on.
Yeah.
What does the switch do?
The switch. So this is a stereo chorus,
Right.
and the switch it adds different. There's different ratios of direct sound with effect sound. So I'll show you. So yeah, that's the difference between 9 and 18.
Could you put it on one of the more obvious choruses and try 18?
Yep. Yeah, so however...
So it doesn't like that 18
doesn't
volts.
like 18
we are
volts.
confident that that doubler's working all right, aren't we?
It's fine.
Because we heard it in the OCD and we heard it in everything else. Okay, just ask any obvious questions. Save us 1,000 comments on YouTube.
Bring this down to 9. I did. It's rebiasing something. So bring this down to 9. So it definitely has that input voltage range that it works between.
Yep.
You know, you go below or above it, and basically the modulation stops. But I do like it closer towards 15.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I agree. I apologise to everyone for using the old waggle stick with the chorus. I've been chastised for that before.
Have you?
Yes. Please don't use the waggle stick when there's chorus on, because we don't know what's chorus and what's the waggle stick.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, let's just quickly jump over to the fuzz then.
Yes, so what we're not going to do today is talk about alkaline carbon batteries. We're not going to do that because that's a whole other thing, and that will take messing about
Sure.
beyond the scope of this video.
But I do want to starve the voltage in this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so let me make sure don't go over 9.
So this mustn't go over 9 volts.
No.
So remember what we were saying earlier about if it doesn't explicitly say in the manual, let's just say it again, let's say it again, and say it again. Please don't give your pedals more voltage than they can handle. So what you're going to do is take this from 9 volts down to
wherever it
stops. And what this does, in part, is simulates what happens to a dying battery. Is that correct, Daniel?
It does.
And there's a whole other thing about fuzz pedals and batteries, and that is the subject of another video.
Yeah. So the way the batteries deliver current is really interesting, but for the moment, we're just going to starve the voltage on this. So here we go, sir. There you go, a direct correlation between the amount of voltage that it receives and the amount of output it has.
I'm just going to, I want to flick to a familiar guitar for a second. I know that sounds cool, but I just want to see what that does when you roll the guitar volume control back.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think that might be interesting.
Cool.
So I'll do the classic Strat neck pickup thing, fuzz.
Awesome.
More voltage, more clean headroom,
Yeah.
better cleanup. Kel Surprise.
Nice. Yeah. Love it.
All right, that was just a quick look at fuzzes because it's a whole other thing.
It is a whole other thing. But yeah, cool. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Conclusions
is the OCD on 18 volts for me was an absolute winner. I might not go to 18 volts. I might try it between, +9. I'll find somewhere where there's a nice.
How would you do that, Dan?
Just
take that with you.
Yeah, I'll find take that or just find. It might be that it'll either be 9, 12, 15, or 18.
Yeah,
and I'll just work out the one. I dare say I think 12 or 15 might sound ace on that.
It is cool. I like this.
Very cool.
Very much like this with the higher voltage.
Yeah.
I think it really works for the cleaner sounds and the chewier kind of breaking amp, more overdrivey type sounds. Preferable at 9 volts, I would say.
It's very interesting to see that the pedals that are specifically designed to take that voltage range.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Good.
There you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, guys. We literally couldn't do it without you. To everyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and purchased
T-shirt, journal.
Yeah, mixed strings.
Or Dan strings.
Hats, beanies, all the stuff.
Yep.
What else is on there?
Things. Stuff. Coasters, fridge magnets.
D&M drives. Our singles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also, to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is...
Editor's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
In The US of A.
Is Riff City Guitar at various locations.
And in Australia?
Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland. Please check their websites. Links are in the description below to go and check out their wares.
Yes, make sure you check out the description below. You'll have links to all the different parts in the video if you want to fast forward to those. Yes, some very cool stuff in there as well. And mix intros are always worth a read.
Sometimes.
Always.
Sometimes.
Great. Cheers, guys. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.